Hey everyone, welcome Joe Walkuski, CEO and founder of TechSpace. Looking forward to this conversation as this company is really contributing to sustainability in the retail sector. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Christine. Great to be with you today.
It's my pleasure. Now, you founded this company after a long, successful career at Patagonia, who really led the way in terms of sustainability, way before we realized that we needed to pay attention to it. Do I have that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Upwards of 30 years ago, we did some of the first life cycle assessments of the fibers that go into the textile and apparel industry, and that's what really kicked off the foresight into what's going into our products and really emphasized the need for everyone in the supply chain to pay attention to what they're doing.
So you felt like when you weren't working for a specific company moving this needle, you were going to reach a broader base founding this company.
Correct. Yeah. Back in the early days of my time at Patagonia, we had great challenges managing all this data. And so rather than just going to work for any one individual brand, I took it upon myself to create an application way back then, and then realized quite quickly that my peers in the industry were struggling with the same challenges in managing the information within the supply chain, going all the way back to fiber origins. And so realized that there was a need in the marketplace for a solution to address these challenges, and that's where TechSpace came about.
You were ahead of your time, and yet you keep adding to it because you have a new product, and we'll get to that. You just announced it in February. Let's start with you telling everyone, what is TechSpace?
Yeah, right. So TechSpace was originally developed actually to run in the browser upwards of 16 years ago when we got started here. And so over time we've evolved with our customer base to the point where today we are helping brands, retailers, and supply chain partners manage the data from materials through testing into color and of course into compliance. These days that's a pretty big umbrella, and we do it all on the web. We help people get out of spreadsheets and PDF static documents and help them to automate their workflow in a way that allows them to do a better job at innovating, bringing new materials and products to the marketplace, and then doing so in a way that allows them to optimize their quality and their compliance as it relates to a lot of the demands that are being put upon us all by the consumer these days.
I have a very specific question about compliance, but before we go there, I did see that three of your clients are non-soft goods. So I just want to understand that this type of ecosystem, including compliance, applies to all types of retail, n- not just soft goods. And the ones that stood out to me were Yeti, Bauer, and Burton, because those are all, they have a large amount, particularly Yeti, but even Burton, of non-soft good components that go into their full assortment. So your
Correct.
spectrum goes across all materials.
Correct. Yes. It goes across all disciplines from a raw material perspective, as well as at the finished product level. And so we're not a PLM or an ERP system by any stretch of the imagination. We solve different problems than those systems do, but nevertheless, our ability to help our clients manage their data goes across in any type of raw material, whether it's textiles or not, and any type of finished product as well.
Okay, let's get back to that compliance question that I have. So to be compliant means that someone's checking you, right? You are complying with X. So I'm assuming there's like an ecosystem of an entity going, hey, are you doing X because we said you should because it's good for these reasons? So is that a thing? I assume it is, but please clarify.
Yeah, but generally speaking, that's how it transpires. Although these days there are a multitude of tools, technologies, and religions, for lack of a better term, of how you can go about becoming compliant, because there are so many different disciplines to the compliance question these days. Everything from social to chemical to regulatory, that there are both a multitude of pressures being put on retailers and their supply chains. And on the other side, there's a plethora of different options that a brand can choose to utilize in order to allow them to support their sustainability claims and what their objectives are in the marketplace. And then consequently, our job is to make sure that they have the tools that they need to manage the data, the certificates, the documents in order to support their claims, make sure they're doing their due diligence, and that at the end of the day, everybody is happy with respect to the compliance requirements that they're looking to achieve.
Okay, so there's not really a, let's say, IRS type of entity that's coming and checking. It's self-monitored, market enforced. So what I mean by that is brands or different touch points along the ecosystem will say, hey, I want to make sure that you X and Y and Z. And so it's the compliance is built into the whole procurement. Is that a better way to describe it?
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. Now, when you step back and see the bigger picture of how one might define compliance or sustainability within their organization, a lot of it is self-driven. And because of that, a system like ours needs to be able to be extremely flexible and configurable to adapt to the data requirements that are defined by our clients. We do have some aspects of compliance that are regulatory driven. Okay, so for instance, the Consumer Product Safety Commission has a lot to say about some of the standards that relate to finished products that are sold into certain age categories of product groupings.
My next clarification, which is using your system, one of the many features is there's sort of a magic button when you want to see the compliance documentation. You don't have to go scattering around into Dropboxes, folders,
Mm,
Excel,
correct.
tabs on the Excel. I'm
Right.
sweating just thinking about it. We've all been there. You just kind of go into your system and say, Marvin, show me my compliance. And all of a sudden it comes up, as long as you've programmed it that way. I mean, I'm simplifying it, but you get the gist.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's the main value proposition we deliver to our clients is we provide one central location for all this data that helps to eliminate data silos within both work groups, within organizations, and then also helps to break those silos down within supply chains with respect to the different tiers of your supply chain that you're communicating with, the specific data that you need to acquire from those different tiers of your supply chain, and do so in a way that allows you to simplify the communication, simplify the data collection, and most importantly, allow it to all come back into one central location that allows you to then link relevant data to each other so that you can create that single view into, for example, a given finished product and understand all the raw materials that go into it, all the sustainability aspects of those raw materials, and all the supporting data to make sure that you have completed your due diligence and are therefore compliant with whatever corporate objective or regulatory requirement you're looking to solve for.
Big emphasis on transparency is what I can see, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and more it's being driven by the retail customer. And these days, we're sending data to retail e-commerce sites even to help our customers educate their clients, educate their retail customers on the products that they're buying, what those products are made up of, where they come from, and all the underlying data that supports again the attributes of those products that they want to communicate to their customers.
That's very encouraging. I hope we have time to come back to that because I was going to ask you in your years of doing this, but also going back through your career, I hope the answer to this is yes, but do you see it getting better? Are we done with the days of just building retail product at the expense of everything and just doing it without any kind of conscious good? Are things improving?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a question. And again, I've been at this for upwards of 30 years when you look at the experience I've had in actually, developing supply chains. And so we got started really early on and back then it was not very well defined. These days, however, the industry itself has evolved tremendously. There are so many more resources available to brands and retailers today that will allow them to much more quickly get up to speed and become compliant and get their processes in order, much more so than ever. And so even though it can be said that it's continually evolving and continuing to become more complex, at the same time, we have many more resources available to us, not the least of which is our system in particular, to help retailers achieve their goals.
So that was going to be my next question, because text-based is defined as web-based business solutions and collaboration platform. So in other words, if a retailer or a brand is saying, I want to do more, I'm ready, I need to comply more, I'm being asked to, I want to, I need to know more, they would call you. They would, they would go to your website, and it's a SaaS.
Sure.
So there are programs there that they can engage with.
Yeah, it's super easy to engage with us, and we've automated a lot of the onboarding, the initial configuration of a client's instance and it's not only SaaS from a brand or retailer perspective, but the way in which we've architected our collaboration platform makes it super easy for our customers to create secure communication channels with their supply chain partners, both at the supplier level, the manufacturer level, and perhaps most importantly, at times, the connection that's required to the independent testing labs as well, that play an important role in supplying data to support the compliance requirements. And it's our initiative with the vast majority of our clients to instill within them the mindset that focusing on materials and engineering your materials and concentrating on the sustainability and chemical restrictions, various types of compliance requirements at the raw material level allows you to engineer compliance and engineer sustainability into your product, as opposed to focusing on the finished product and then trying to reverse engineer everything and make sure you've dotted the I's and crossed your T's. And so it's helpful to really focus on that, sort of a material first initiative. Focus on the raw materials, make sure you do your due diligence throughout the product development process, and then you're going to be in a much better position to deliver quality products that are also compliant.
That's a perfect segue into what you announced in February, which is a material marketplace. So to tie in what you just said, which is start with the materiality, if you want an end result that meets the standards, it starts at the very beginning. So you announced in February of 2022 a material marketplace. So I'm curious, what were people doing before you announced this? Where were they going, and how was it being done? And in addition, what is the material marketplace?
Right. Historically, the apparel design process has been very hands-on, very touchy-feely. And at some point, you ultimately need to see a sample that's made out of the fabric that you're going to put into production, right? But in the last few years, especially given the effects of the pandemic, people weren't meeting at trade shows, they weren't meeting in person on site. And so the industry needed a way to accelerate the way in which suppliers are able to merchandise their materials to their customers. And so we have implemented what we call the Material First Marketplace, which is the ability for suppliers and ingredient brands that use our system to market and merchandise their materials to our brand and retail customers right from within the text-based user interface. And so it's really a very focused marketplace where brands and retailers can create secure arrangements to share data with either existing or potential suppliers, and then be able to shop and search and query basic properties of their materials, but most importantly also all the sustainability certificates and other supporting compliance data that helps to identify what a material is, where it's coming from, and how it might best meet the end use needs application of that brand or retailer. And then they can identify the materials and then import those materials from the supplier right into their own system to accelerate the rate at which they're able to commercialize and develop their products. All the while, our job is to help them facilitate the communication with that supplier as they go into much greater detail about what the material is and how it works, and determine whether or not the risk factors are sufficient to adopt it into their product line.
So I'm envisioning, let's say, filters where they can seek, as you said, sustainability certificates or properties
Sure.
that they are trying to find. And so then on your side, you developed a system, a technology, a support that since it's a marketplace, there's two sides. So you have the suppliers going in and identifying each of their components. They have to kind of characterize, and then that becomes visible and searchable by the brands and
Correct.
retailers and those on the other side of the marketplace.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, that sounds great. That
Yep.
really sounds great. And anything else on tap once this sort of, I mean, it's brand new. I'm sure you're getting a lot of traction on it. Anything else on tap coming for TechSpace?
Yeah. So the fact that our application has been built with the perspective of allowing supply chain partners to collaborate with each other, no matter where in the supply chain they are and what their role is in the supply, combined with the fact that we've built a many to many to many collaboration platform, really allows us to do some pretty unique things from a value perspective, and our ability to continue to evolve the platform in ways that facilitate data transfer and automate the processes that oftentimes bog down an operation with respect to manual static file transfers and so on. And so the next version of our material first marketplace, which we're going to be releasing here in the next 6 weeks or so, allows us to take that collaboration piece to the next level. And because everybody's operating on the same platform, we're able to do some unique things, such as automatically integrating these entities between one another so that we can solve for the problem, for example, of brands having to perpetually manage the expiration dates of their sustainability certificates, right? It's a major problem. You've got all these certificates across all these raw materials, and you need to keep track of all their data. And so the next version of our marketplace will allow our brand customers to be integrated more directly and completely with the supplier, so that, for example, we can automatically update expiration dates when that data changes on the supply side. We replicate that down to the brand, and once again, helping them improve their processes, reduce work, and save costs to help them facilitate engineering new materials and keeping track of them into perpetuity.
Well, we'll be on the lookout for that. There's a lot of exciting things, and there was so much good in this conversation. But most importantly, the fact that you're seeing improvement so that the industry can continue to battle the sustainability problem and be more conscientious. And you're sort of the flag bearer of that, and it's really good stuff.
Well, it gives us great pleasure to be able to help so many customers and so many partners within the supply chain just do a better job, and not just as it relates to developing products, but ultimately serving the needs of the retail customer.
Just do better and just do a better job. I think that's great. Thank you again.
Exactly. Thank you, Christine. It's a pleasure.